So picture this for a second. You're at the supermarket.
Okay.
You've got your cart, you're totally ready to go, but the line is just moving agonizingly slow.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. And you look up to see what the holdup is. And the checkout clerk is like deliberately taking his time.
Wait, deliberately?
Yeah, deliberately. He's striking up a conversation with an elderly shopper, carefully helping her bag her groceries, just making this genuine human connection. And right above his register, management actually has a sign posted that just says, slow checkout.
Oh, wow.
Right. He's not bad at his job. He's not being inefficient. He is intentionally creating a moment.
It's a calculated choice, right, by both the employee and the store to add value beyond just, scanning barcodes as fast as humanly possible.
Exactly.
He's prioritizing the quality of that interaction over just the sheer speed of the transaction, and that completely changes his relationship with the work he's doing right in that moment.
And see, well, that sounds like, I don't know, a heartwarming local news story. It's actually the perfect illustration of what organizational psychologists call proactive engagement.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what today's Deep Dives is entirely focused on. We are exploring the definitive science behind work engagement.
It's such a fascinating topic.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we're basing this on a massive comprehensive synthesis of the research by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover. We're going to figure out what actually happens in the brain and the body when you are truly engaged with your work.
Which honestly is critical infrastructure right now, like on a global macro level.
Yeah, how so?
Well, if we look at the global economic landscape, crises like the 2008 recession and then obviously the massive disruptions of the COVID-19 pandemic
Completely changed everything.
completely reshaped how organizations view productivity. Engagement is no longer treated as just this, nice to have HR initiative with the trust falls and pizza parties.
Right, the mandatory fun days.
Exactly. Entire governments are actually building this into their economic survival strategies now. The UK government commissioned sweeping research on engagement just to navigate their post-recession recovery.
Wow, the whole government.
Yeah, they realized that a burnt-out workforce literally cannot rebuild an economy. And Finland went even further. They incorporated engagement metrics directly into their national work-life development strategies.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Because when I hear the word engagement, especially in a corporate context...
You get suspicious.
Yeah, I do. And I think a lot of you listening probably feel the exact same way I do. My brain immediately translates engagement to, like, a corporate buzzword for working unpaid overtime.
Right, yeah.
It just feels like this highly polished way of asking people to give up their weekends for the sake of the company. So what are the actual scientific parameters we're talking about here?
Well, the most widely adopted scientific framework for this was developed by researcher Wilmar Shafili and his colleagues, and it defines work engagement very specifically. And it actively separates it from just, hours logged. It's defined as a positive, effective, motivational state of mind characterized by 3 distinct dimensions.
Which are?
Vigor, dedication, and absorption.
Okay, let's break those down. Because vigor, that sounds physical to me.
It's actually both physical and mental. So vigor is your baseline energy level at work. It's your mental resilience and your willingness to invest effort even when things get really difficult.
Okay, that makes sense. What about dedication?
Dedication refers to a sense of enthusiasm, pride, and really feeling like your work actually has significance. Like you aren't just pushing paper, There's an actual point to it.
Right, feeling like you matter.
Exactly. And then absorption is that state of being totally immersed in your work. It's when you're concentrating so deeply that time just kind of slips away and you actually have a hard time detaching from what you're doing because you are entirely in the zone.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Because you say difficulty detaching and vigor, and honestly, that sounds awfully similar to someone who just can't turn off. If I see someone completely absorbed in their laptop at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, I don't think, oh, wow, they are so engaged.
Right.
I think that person is a total workaholic. Isn't this just a clinical way of describing someone white-knuckling their way through a 70-hour work week?
See, that's the common assumption. But what's fascinating here is that the science actually draws a massive physiological line between those 2 states of mind.
Really? A physiological line?
Yeah. There was this major 2-year Japanese study that specifically compared work engagement against workaholism to see how they impacted people physically over time.
And what did they find?
Well, they found that workaholism predictably leads to severe psychological distress and a really sharp increase in physical health complaints.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Workaholism breaks the body down because it's driven by this compulsive, anxious need to work. It keeps your nervous system locked in a low-grade fight-or-flight state, just pumping cortisol constantly.
Meaning your body essentially thinks it's under constant threat.
Yes. But work engagement does the exact opposite. Because engagement is driven by intrinsic motivation and a sense of meaning, it puts the brain into a state of flow that actually protects your health.
Wait, it protects it?
Yeah. The study showed that high work engagement predicted decreased psychological distress and an actual increase in overall life satisfaction.
So working intensely actually protected their health. That goes against literally everything we hear about work stress.
I know, but the physical evidence is undeniable, especially when you look at a separate study done on Finnish cleaners.
Okay, cleaners, so very physical work.
Highly physical, demanding, often really repetitive work. The researchers measured the cleaners' cardiac autonomic activity, so essentially they were tracking how their nervous systems were firing throughout the entire workday.
And what happened?
The cleaners who scored high on work engagement actually showed increased parasympathetic activity.
Okay, the parasympathetic nervous system, that's the rest and digest function.
Right.
Like the part of the nervous system that calms you down and repairs the body.
Exactly. Their bodies were literally experiencing healthy, healing physiological responses while they were actively engaged in demanding labor.
That is wild.
It is, because when you're engaged, you aren't fighting a threat, you are mastering a task. And the brain recognizes that sense of mastery and safety, and it signals the body to recover and build resilience. Workaholism physically drains you. Engagement physically restores you.
Okay, so if engagement is this super protective, physiologically restorative state of mind, how do we actually get it? Because I think most of us agree that most jobs don't naturally feel like a healing experience.
Definitely not naturally, no.
So the source text points to this core psychological engine called the JDR theory, the Job Demands Resources Framework.
Yes, the dominant framework in the field.
Right. And as I was reading this, trying to really visualize how these invisible forces operate in an office, I kept coming back to, like, a video game analogy.
Oh, a video game analogy. How does that map onto the JDR theory?
Okay, so imagine you're the player character navigating your workplace. Job demands are basically all the monsters, the toxic swamps, the environmental traps that just slowly drain your HP, your health points.
I like this.
Right. And if you take too much damage from these demands without healing, you get a game over. That's burnout.
Perfect, yeah.
But job resources, those are your health potions, your armor upgrades, your special power-ups.
Yeah.
Finding and using those resources is what triggers engagement and keeps you in the game, fighting strong.
That analogy actually works perfectly, especially if we look at a very specific nuance in the JDR theory. Because not all demands, not all monsters are bad for you.
Wait, some monsters are good?
Well, the framework draws a really sharp contrast between what they call hindrance demands and challenge demands.
So what makes a demand a hindrance versus a challenge?
Hindrance demands are the things that just drain your energy with absolutely no upside. So, bureaucratic red tape, role conflict, ambiguous instructions from a terrible manager, pointless administrative hassles.
Okay, so those are your toxic swamps.
Exactly. They just deplete your health points and offer zero reward, leading straight to burnout. But challenge demands are things like intense time pressure, high-level job responsibility, or like a really complex workload that requires you to stretch your capabilities to actually solve a problem.
Okay, so a challenge demand is like a boss fight.
A boss fight, yeah.
It's incredibly difficult, it takes a massive amount of effort, and it might even drain your HP in the short term. But when you beat it, you get massive experience points. You level up.
Yes, exactly.
The swamp just slows you down, but the boss fight gives you mastery.
Challenge demands boost engagement because they offer a real opportunity for growth and achievement. I mean, the human brain actually craves meaningful difficulty. It triggers dopamine when we overcome a complex obstacle.
That makes total sense.
But, going back to your analogy, you can't beat the boss fight if you don't have the health potions and the armor. You need resources to tackle the challenges.
Right. So if we're looking to stock up on resources, what universally works? Because, I mean, a software engineer's resources are going to look very, very different from a construction worker's.
You would think so, but the research on this is remarkably unified. There was a cross-occupational study that compared 11 vastly different professions. Everyone from blue-collar protection workers to white-collar physicians, researchers, and educators.
Totally different worlds.
Completely different. And despite the massive differences in their daily tasks and environments, they found three universally important resources that predict engagement better than almost anything else.
Okay, so what are the universal health potions?
Number one is skill discretion. This is the opportunity to actually use your unique abilities to exercise creativity and acquire new competencies.
So like not just feeling like a robot.
Right. Nobody wants to feel like a cog in a machine. We need to feel like our specific brain is required for the task.
Got it. What's number two?
Number two is job feedback. And I should clarify, this doesn't mean an annual performance review.
Oh, thank God. Those are the worst.
Yeah, they really are. This means having a crystal clear understanding of the meaning of your work, seeing the actual results, and knowing the impact you're having in real time.
Okay, so seeing that what you do matters.
Exactly. And number three is team empowerment. Working in a group that shares a sense of potency and autonomy, where you feel like you actually have collective impact.
Okay, so skill discretion, job feedback, and team empowerment. That makes intuitive sense. If you know what you're doing matters, you're allowed to use your brain to do it, and you're surrounded by a team that feels capable, obviously you're going to be engaged.
Absolutely.
But here's where we hit a wall, I think. We've established that these resources are basically required to survive the demands of a job. But if you are listening to this right now and thinking, well, my management doesn't provide any of that.
Yeah, that's a common problem.
Yeah. Right. What if you are stuck in a rigid role? You're surrounded by those toxic swamp hindrance demands, and the potions are just nowhere to be found.
Well, that is the reality for a huge percentage of the workforce. And it's exactly why organizational psychologists have pivoted to focusing heavily on a concept called job crafting.
Job crafting.
Yes, this is a bottom-up approach. Instead of waiting for a benevolent manager to redesign your job from the top down, the employee takes self-initiated action to optimize their own demands and resources. You are actively hacking your own role to better align with your personal strength.
Okay, I'm trying to picture this in practice. Because telling my boss, hey, I'm crafting my job today, sounds like a really quick way to get fired.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't phrase it like that.
Right. Like if my job description is X, Y, and Z, I can't just decide I'm only going to do X because it offers more skill discretion. So how do you actually do this safely?
It's much more methodical and subtle than just refusing to do parts of your job. The source material details this highly successful 6-week web-based e-learning intervention. And it teaches employees exactly how to craft their jobs within their existing constraints.
Okay, how does it work?
So in week 2, for example, participants are asked to create a crafting map. They literally list out every single task they perform at work, and they categorize them.
Categorize them how?
They look at which tasks are resourceful, meaning they are inspiring and motivating, and which tasks are demanding and energy depleting.
Ah, so it's essentially a personal energy audit. You're tracking exactly where your battery is draining and where it's charging.
Precisely. You have to know where the leaks are before you can fix them. Then in week 4, the focus shifts to those hindering demands. They identify the absolute worst offenders.
Like what?
Maybe it's a recurring meeting with no agenda or, an outdated reporting process that takes 2 hours but literally nobody ever reads. And they devise very specific micro-strategies to reduce them. And the brilliance of this intervention is that they anonymously share these demand reduction ideas with their cohort and actually vote on the most practical approaches.
So you aren't ignoring your job. You're just systematically figuring out how to minimize the friction of the useless stuff.
Yes.
You're like negotiating away the swamp so you
Sure.
have more energy for the boss fights.
Exactly. And the underlying psychology driving this relies on the conservation of resources theory, or COR theory. This theory explains a really fascinating psychological mechanism, which is that humans are fiercely protective of their energy.
I mean, I definitely am.
Right. So when you successfully tweak your job to gain just a little bit more autonomy or reduce one annoying hindrance, it creates what's called a gain spiral.
A gain spiral? How does that work?
Think about the cognitive load you free up when you eliminate a really frustrating task. That freed up energy doesn't just disappear. Because you feel a sense of regained autonomy, your brain gets a small dopamine hit. You then take that newly freed energy and you invest it into crafting your job a little more. Maybe volunteering for a project that actually uses your skills, that gets you more resources, which boosts your engagement again, which gives you more energy. It literally snowballs from the bottom up.
Okay, that makes total sense. You basically claw back 10% of your energy, and you use that 10% to buy back 20%.
Exactly.
But, okay, we are talking entirely about the individual here. Let's say you've done this. Your gain spiral is spinning, you have vigor and absorption. But we don't work in vacuums.
No, we don't.
What happens when you drop this highly engaged person into a room with a completely burnt out team? I mean, does the engagement survive that?
It doesn't just survive, it actually spreads.
It spreads.
Yeah. The research relies heavily on emotional contagion theory to explain this. As humans, we have a biological tendency to unconsciously mimic the facial expressions, vocalizations, and postures of the people around us.
Oh, because of mirror neurons, right?
Exactly, driven by mirror neurons in the brain. So when you are working next to someone who is genuinely engaged, someone who is radiating that focused positive energy, your body subtly adopts their physical cues.
Wait, so if I sit next to someone who is like sitting up straight and speaking with energy, my brain automatically makes me sit up straight too.
Yes. And here's where the mechanism gets really interesting. Because of how our brains are wired, when your body adopts a physical cue, the brain interprets that posture and actually triggers the corresponding emotional state internally.
Hold on, so by mirroring their engaged posture, your brain tricks your body into feeling engaged.
Yes, it causes engagement to literally spread like a positive virus through a team. The physical posture creates the emotion.
That is wild. The posture creates the emotion, not the other way around.
I know, it's incredible. And it goes even further than just the immediate team. There was a study conducted on dual earner couples that tracked how engagement moves between partners.
Between spouses.
Yeah. They found that when one partner experienced high work engagement during the day, it actually crossed over and improved the other partner's mental well-being at home that evening.
Wow. So you have a genuinely engaging day at work, you bring that energy home, and it physically and mentally benefits your spouse.
It really does.
I love the human element of this. It's so cool.
Yeah.
But I have to put on my executive hat for a second here.
Right.
If I run a company, I might hear this and think, well, great, everyone's smiling, they have great posture, their spouses are happy, but I have margins to hit, you know.
Sure.
Does this state of mind actually translate to the bottom line?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the hard economic evidence is undeniable. Engagement is a profound driver of financial performance. Take a study that was conducted in, of all places, fast food restaurants.
Food, really?
Yes. Researchers tracked daily employee engagement levels and found that they directly and objectively predicted the daily financial returns of those specific restaurant locations.
That is a notoriously standardized industry. Everything is timed, the menus are fixed, the processes are so rigid. How does engagement actually move the needle on financial returns when the employee has almost no control over the product?
Because engagement dictates the execution. Think about it. An engaged fast food worker is fully absorbed in the moment. That means fewer order mistakes, which obviously reduces waste.
Right.
It means a faster, more resilient response during the lunch rush, which increases the volume of sales. And crucially, it means a higher quality of interaction with the customer, which drives repeat business. Even in a highly constrained environment, the vigor and dedication of the employee directly impacts the margin.
So the human element is still the variable.
Exactly. And when you look at the long-term economic impact on the individual, it's just as stark. There was this massive register-based study in Finland that tracked a representative sample of employees over 2 full years.
Okay.
And they weren't just asking people how they felt on a survey. They were looking at hard tax and employment data.
Oh, wow. Objective data.
Yes. And they found that high work engagement objectively predicted future wage increases, upward occupational mobility, and a significantly reduced risk of unemployment over that 2-year period.
So engaged people make more money for the business, and as a result, they basically secure better career trajectories and higher wages for themselves.
It basically creates a protective economic bubble around the engaged worker.
That's amazing. But, okay, all of this science sounds incredibly clean when we talk about it in these terms, but the modern workplace is chaos.
Complete chaos.
Right. I'm imagining a listener who is sitting at their kitchen table right now, wearing sweatpants, staring down the barrel of their 4th Zoom call of the day, trying to tune out their dog barking in the background.
Very relatable scene.
So what does this all mean for them? Does engagement even survive the transition to remote work?
That is honestly the defining question of the current era of organizational psychology. The researchers synthesized the evidence from the massive COVID-19 remote work expansion, and the data presents a massive contradiction.
A contradiction how?
Well, telework acts as an extreme amplifier for both job resources and job demands simultaneously.
Wait, it amplifies both sides of the JDR theory.
Exactly. So on the resource side, Telework can provide amazing autonomy. You have far more control over your physical environment, your schedule, your methods. It also allows for deep concentration without the constant interruptions of an open plan office.
Right, the ability to just put your head down, control your environment, and do the work. Those are powerful resources that drive absorption.
Yes. But the demands amplify too. They become really insidious. You face the risk of severe social isolation, which completely strips away that team empowerment resource we discussed earlier.
Yeah, you feel like you're on an island.
Exactly. You have blurred work-life boundaries where the kitchen table is also the boardroom, making it nearly impossible to detach and let the parasympathetic nervous system recover. And then, of course, there's the technology burden.
Oh man, the sheer exhaustion of having to prove you're working by constantly being like a green dot on Slack.
Exactly. The cognitive fatigue of communication software overuse is huge. So, whether remote work fuels engagement or destroys it depends almost entirely on one factor.
What's the factor?
A sweeping study of 34 different countries looked at daily teleworkers to find out what tipped the scales. And they proved that the absolute strongest predictor of work engagement for remote employees is high-quality management.
Wow, it always comes down to the boss, doesn't it?
It really does.
But what does a remote boss actually do differently?
They practice what researchers call identity leadership. See, in an office, team identity forms naturally just by sharing a physical space. But remotely, a manager has to actively forge a sense of we.
So they can't just manage tasks.
Right. They have to constantly connect the remote workers' isolated daily tasks to the broader mission of the team. They have to over-communicate value and provide really active recognition. Without that identity leadership, remote engagement just crumbles under the weight of isolation and that tech burden.
Wow. Okay, so for everyone listening, let's pull all these threads together. Work engagement is not about giving your soul to a company or grinding yourself to dust for some quarterly goal. It is a measurable physiological state of vigor, dedication, and absorption.
Yes, absolutely.
It is a state that literally triggers your nervous system to heal your body. It prevents psychological distress. It spreads positive energy to the people around you through emotional contagion, and it measurably boosts your wages. And honestly, the most empowering part is that you can actively craft your own job. You can audit your energy, negotiate away the useless swamps, and actually seek out the challenge demands to build your own resources.
This raises an important question, though, as we look to the future.
What's that?
Well, the source text concludes by looking ahead at emerging workplace challenges. And the biggest one looming over all of this is the integration of artificial intelligence. As AI becomes deeply embedded in our daily jobs, how is it going to impact this really delicate ecosystem of engagement?
You know, I tend to lean a bit optimistic here. To me, AI looks like the ultimate job resource. I mean, if we think about the JDR theory, AI could be the tool that automates away all the soul-crushing bureaucratic hindrance demands, the swamps.
Oh, absolutely.
It could summarize the pointless meetings, fill out the redundant forms, and free us up to amplify our skill discretion and just focus entirely on creative, meaningful boss fights.
And that is the utopian view, but there is a very real danger that it becomes a massive hindrance demand in itself.
Really? How so?
Well, if AI doesn't just automate the paperwork, but actually starts doing the complex problem solving, it de-skills us. It strips away our autonomy and reduces us to simply, monitoring algorithms all day.
Oh, so you lose the boss fight entirely.
Exactly. And if you lose the challenge, you destroy the sense of mastery, which completely flatlines engagement.
That is the tension every single person listening is going to have to navigate. As the AI revolution unfolds, how are you going to craft your job to ensure you don't lose your skill discretion?
Yeah.
It really brings us right back to that supermarket checkout clerk we started with.
It does, yeah.
He had the technology right in front of him to scan items blazingly fast. He could have operated like a machine, purely optimizing for speed and efficiency. But he deliberately chose to use his autonomy to slow down, to connect with another human being, and to craft an experience that gave his work actual meaning. That's the choice we're all going to have to make as our tools get faster.
The technology will continue to accelerate, without a doubt. But the human need to craft meaning and find mastery out of our work, that remains constant.